Dave, thanks very much for taking some time out of your busy schedule. We'll have a quick chat after the kind of first quarter and whatnot, and just a little kind of club update as we went. So let's start with the kind of first quarter on the pitch. Obviously unbeaten, got to be happy as a CEO.
Absolutely, I think it's a bit of an unknown. Coming down to the division, you know that it's going to be competitive. There's teams, from top to bottom that are all probably before the season started aiming for top four. I think all 10 teams are looking to try and get at least a playoff place, and then you're probably looking at 5-6 teams who are all realistically trying to win the title. So when you come into that division, you're probably unsure where you're going to fall in that mix. We know our aim for the season is to get back in the Premiership, but it's not going to be easy, and we know that the teams in this league are really good. You've got Falkirk who've came up, who are probably a bit of an anomaly really, because you'd normally look at the team getting promoted as maybe the weak link, if you like, because they just come into the division, whereas that's Falkirk kind of blown that out of the water, so that makes it even harder. So you'd be sitting here after the first 9 games, now having played everybody and not lost a game, then I think that's probably beyond the expectation that we'd have had after the first round of fixtures. So that's testament to Davy and the squad for the work they've done and where they've got us at this stage. Could it have been better? Of course it could. I think there's games where we're still disappointed not to have won. 5 wins, 4 draws. Of those 4 draws, there's probably 1, maybe 2, where on reflection probably deserved more. But on the flip side of that, there's maybe a couple of the wins where maybe just stole it in the end. Not to say we didn't deserve it, but we've nicked it. So we're sitting on 19 points after that first round of fixtures. For me is a really good start and gives a really great platform to kick on now going into that second round of games.
Was obviously a kind of difficult year last year. Obviously don't want to touch too much upon it now. It's kind of in the past, and we'll focus on positives moving forward. But we opted for kind of continuity with our management team and everything else. How easy was that a conversation?
Probably easier than people imagine. I think there's always going to be speculation when you're relegated, or when you've had a testing season or a disappointing season, when we look back. So I think from the outside, people probably expect that to have been a difficult decision to make, and how do you come to that kind of decision, that conclusion? But for me, I think I was fairly clear in my own mind that it was going to be Davy regardless of which division we were kicking off this season in, whether it been the top flight or the Championship. I think it was getting harder and harder for us to compete in the Premiership. There's no getting away for that, and we've mentioned budgets and fan bases of other clubs, and I think that gap was widening between the rest of the perceived bottom 6 clubs and ourselves. A combination of the fan base numbers, outward investment from or within other clubs in the Premiership. You see a number of them now with investors from America or overseas, and when we've not got that, it's inevitable that gap is going to get bigger and it's going to get harder and harder to compete. So I think at that point you're reflecting back on the season, and as difficult as it was for me, David was always going to be the man for starting this season, purely on the basis that 1, the credit in the bank for me was absolutely still there, but 2, purely because I believe he's the right man in the Championship. He was part of that coaching staff who got us out of the Championship to the Premiership alongside David Hopkin back when we got there. So why would you want to turn your nose up at someone who's knows the club inside out, who's been there and done it and got us to the Premiership, and who I think when you look back at last season, results or the final conclusion was disappointing, but a lot of the performances were there. We were close in games. Of course, there was defeats that were disappointing and we weren't in the game, but there was a lot of narrow defeats or draws that we were a missed penalty away for 3 points, or a good chance away for winning. And the amount of times, I've spoken about this numerous times, I came into boardrooms after games and talking to other CEOs or chairmen, they're saying, listen, if you play like that every week, you'll be fine. We are playing like that every week. We're just not getting that wee break or that final goal to pick, turn a point into 3 or turn nothing into 1. So I think last season the whole was as disappointing it was. We're not going away for that. No, we're not saying it's anything other than a disappointment. But I think when John and I spoke and we spoke with David, and if he wanted to be here, it was always the case that David would be in charge regardless of the division we were in.
There has obviously been kind of one black mark on our counter so far this season, which was that League Cup exit, which probably unexpected given the group that we had and everything else. But how did that affect budgets and everything else? Obviously at that time we're still in the transfer market and whatnot. How did that impact the club?
Again, listen, it was frustrating. 3 games, 3 wins, 3 clean sheets. You're going to your 4th and final game, you're at home, you're on course for a 4th clean sheet. I think if that had finished 0-0, it would have been the only team in the group stage to not concede a goal in all 4 games. And then Spartans hit us with a sucker punch, and fair play to them, they had a brilliant result, and they went on to have a great next round and got that quarter-final tie up at Aberdeen. But for us, there wasn't a massive impact on the budget. No, it's not something. No, we're not naive. We're not silly when we're doing it. We weren't banking on being in the quarter-finals, the semi-finals. Yes, we thought on paper, or we should have on paper, won that group or progressed for that group, and we've done everything up until the 8th to 9th minute to do that. We're sitting pretty top of the group, probably already thinking we were in the hat, and then concede 1 goal in 4 games and it knocked us out. And how's your luck? So we hadn't banked on, or certainly it wasn't a major blow to the finances. I think the other part of that is that the prize money for where we went out versus the prize money for losing the next round isn't huge. It's not a massive leap. So that's the only definite we knew. We didn't know how the draw would have went. Spartans went on to get Ross County at home, but I don't know if the numbers, like the ball numbers for the draw, would have been the same. So we don't know who we'd have got. We don't know, had we finished 0-0, I can't remember if we'd been seeded, unseeded. So there's lots of kind of permutations. We don't know how that would have went. The only thing that we know absolutely was the difference between the prize money we got for finishing second in the group and the prize money we would have got had we lost the next round. We could have won the next round and went on, and who knows. But that's the only thing we know for sure, and it wasn't significant enough to impact the budget. No, we hoped and thought we would get beyond that stage, but it wasn't enough an impact to really hurt us on whether it be the transfer market or just in general in the club.
Obviously, kind of the other active trophy at the moment away from league duty, the SPFL Trust Trophy. We've got ourselves into the quarter-finals. Maybe puts a wee bit more focus on that, doesn't it? Kind of been knocked out of the League Cup to that, where you see a lot of teams kind of rotate players and everything else. But we're in it to win it. Yeah,
of course we're in it and win every single game. But absolutely, there's no real. We're not looking at that cup as a chance to rest players or just to give players minutes for the sake of it. I think we've seen that with the last two rounds. We've been fairly strong. There's been changes, but it's not been 10, 11 changes. It's 2, 3, 4, and the players we're bringing in are still strong in and about the first team. It's not wholesale 11 youth players in the squad. You have to look at the game against Inverness early in the month. There's Steve May, who'd been playing every game. You may be looking at the bench saying they've won the field, he'll get a rest, but Stevie May plays, he scores, he sets one up. So we're certainly, Davey and the coaching staff are certainly taking it seriously. There's, firstly for me as a Livingston fan and as a football fan, you want your team to get to cup final, and for me that's no different in this role or if we just sit in the stands watching the games every Saturday. We want to get to cup final, we want to lift some silverware, but ideally there's still 3 trophies available for us this season in terms of the league, the Challenge Cup and the Scottish Cup. But the Challenge Cup, I think, gives you a trophy that's there to be won. There's 5 championship teams already out, so there's an opportunity there, and the job I've got, we're at home in the quarter final, so we'll see that as a chance to go and try to win that game and progress to the semi-finals. But yeah, I wouldn't say there's an emphasis on it, but we certainly will be taking it as seriously as any league game. And fundamentally, yeah, we want to go and lift the trophy, not just for the fans, but yeah, there's a financial element to that as well. There's increased prize money in the Trust Trophy this year, so that again is an incentive, like you touched on, the money we did lose out on from the League Cup. Then there's a potential they go and recoup that by having a good run here, and we got to the last 8 so far, and we're confident going into the quarter-final stage that we can take us all the way to that final and see where we go.
So obviously quite a few summer transfers, kind of big overhaul in terms of players in, players out across the summer, which was kind of expected. Most recent kind of player that joined us, Danny Wilson, raft of experience and everything else that comes with that, obviously, but he'll be great to have about the building, won't he? And kind of he'll gel into the squad pretty well, because the squad are now starting to gel and we can see that on and off the pitch. Yeah,
Danny's a big signing for us on a number of levels. One, the experience first and foremost, where he's been, where he's came from. He was playing in MLS, which is still a terrific standard for Livingston to go and sign a player from. The players that have played at Liverpool, at Rangers, at Hearts, he's bagged experience. But also in that position, I think we were, with injuries to Sean Donlan and Ben Jackson, it was probably the one area where we became a little bit light, just in the respect of if at the minute, Ryan McGowan and Michael Nottingham were the partnership there. But an injury or a suspension, one of them, then it was starting to look a bit like someone's going to have to shift maybe a little bit of position. Christian had been in there early in the season, but he's probably more known as a left-sided defender, a left midfielder, so he can do it. Dan Finlayson can play in there as well, but I think it was the one where, as an out-and-out central defender, we were short with injuries to Sean and Ben. Danny had been in training, just keeping fit. He spoke to Davey and asked if he could come and use the facilities, which was no problem. Davey then spoke to myself and John, and were keen to try and do something, but it just couldn't do it at the time initially when Danny came in. Danny went away and had a few things to tie up family-wise and his former club and just in his personal life in America. Came back over and of course the injuries to Sean and Ben proved to be a little bit more long-term than we'd initially thought. And then we got our kind of final SPFL fees through from the league, and there was a little bit more money than we expected, or everybody expected. You know, the SPFL, it's well documented that they'd done a terrific job on the money they brought in, and that final October payment for last season provided a little bit additional money that we didn't expect. So it gave us that opportunity for David to go and speak to Danny again, and if the opportunity was still there and it was still something he wanted to do, then the money was now there to make that possible till January, which is where Danny's here till at the minute, and then we can reassess that come the window and see where we're at as a squad. So, but yeah, delighted to get Danny in. I think I've seen his interview that he gave, and it's one of those ones where he says he almost feels like it was inevitable that at some point he would end up being a local guy, had trained here as a kid, played locally with Muirston, and that kind of maybe career path was that at some point, if he came back to Scotland, it might be here. So that probably helps as well when he's local and family here and his friends are here. So, but yeah, a brilliant defender, bags of experience, and you just have to look on Saturday with Christian picking up an injury and coming off, that straight away you look at your bench and you can bring somebody like Danny Wilson on. You know, we were also pleased to bring young Cody Stark in the first team, another defender as well. But for him, that's to have been chucked on there at half time on Saturday down at Ayr against somebody that's going for the title. That would have been a real baptism of fire for Cody. So, but again, for by that training, for Cody now, training with Ryan McGowan, training with Michael Nottingham, training with Danny Wilson, like one opportunity. They've got Ryan McGowan played at the World Cup, bags experience in Scotland and abroad. Michael Nottingham, who was a late developer at the game, but again he's been here now a year and a half, and I think he's really taken Cody under his wing a bit and given him bits of advice and helped him through training and little pointers. And now Danny Wilson coming in, who again I've been at Liverpool, been at Rangers, Hearts, and over in America. So it's brilliant for Cody as well to have another player in his area that he can kind of thrive off and develop himself.
Just quickly on Cody there, obviously, as you said, he's been kind of taken under his wing by Michael Nottingham. How important is that sort of mentorship within the group as well?
It's really big, I think, particularly for the younger guys in the squad. And that's not just the academy players at Cody. You look at guys like Ollie Green coming up from England, Rhys McAleer, who's got experience at other clubs, but he's still young in his own career. Andy Winter's still young, Lewis Smith's still young. So there's young players in the squad who, having guys like Michael Nottingham, Andrew Shinnie, Ryan McGowan, Stevie May, these guys come into the building who can speak to those players and help them. It's not just about training Monday to Friday and just what you're doing on the ball. There's a lot of other things going on, and these players, there's life away from football. There's getting to know how the day-to-day works in a football club. Cody's still got jobs to do. He helps the kit man. It's kind of that old school way. He helps with the boots, the kit, the washing. So, but he's buying into that and he's loving it. I spoke to him last week, and when I sat down for a coffee and just a catch up, and saying he's even seen his own development away from here. Now he's going home and silly things like in his own house, in his own room, things are tidier because he's working with Cheb here and getting that routine of being in that environment and now having responsibility, and that'll help him within the building but also away from the building. So that's not just the players. I say guys like Cheb and around the club who are also working with him. It'll be great for Cody, and it's also nice. It's nice for the academy to then see that pathway for a Cody, and also young players Sam Culbert and Lucas Stenhouse, Tommy Sharp, who are involved in the first team as well. So it can only be good for the club as a whole, but certainly Cody on a personal level.
And just onto those who kind of back us most, obviously in the stands week in, week out, we've had a few fantastic back-ins. Looking at Falkirk, for example, week past Tuesday, pushing 500 there. They've been superb, but it's important that we continue to back the team in the right way, isn't it?
Of course it is, and what a difference it makes. I think watching Davies' interviews after games, and it's very noticeable with the players and staff. That night at Falkirk, people have gone about it was only this, it was only a few hundred, but for us it doesn't matter. Like, we don't need to justify those numbers to anybody. That's terrific for us. Take 5 or nearly 500 fans to an away game midweek. Doesn't matter where it is, doesn't matter how close it is, how far away it is. For Livingston, our season ticket numbers are just over 1,100 to take, but just short of 50% of your season ticket numbers to an away game. If you take that percentage with other clubs, that's huge. It's terrific, and particularly off the back of last season when it was so tough and people were spending their money, still travelling to Aberdeen and Ross County and places like this, and it wasn't great at times, and we weren't getting the just rewards, and they were probably going home frustrated, and it does put a damper on your weekend. Of course it does. I know how much a damper it puts on me as a fan, first and foremost, but also then there's other responsibility now comes with the position in the club. But it's difficult, and they were still turning up last season, but to see that shift already this season, that people really behind the team, really behind Davey and his staff, it makes a big difference in the stand. And the noise, Partick Thistle away, and they'll get a great turnout as well at the weekend at Ayr. Not quite the same numbers, but a big trip, and that's off the back of, you take the Inverness Cup game out, 3 away games in a row in the league, and in fact to put the Inverness game back in, it's not the season ticket, so there's 4 games in a row that they've had to shell out to go to. It's brilliant, and what a difference it makes in around the building. Not just on a Saturday, but you're coming on a Monday and you can feel the fans are on side, and when you walk out there, whether it's in the stand or on the park on a Saturday, and you can hear the support, you feel it. People are kind of complimentary, people are behind the team when you're the Airdrie game here on a late winner, and people still behind the team going into the final 5 minutes. You could feel there was a goal coming, and that helps. The players on the field, and you're feeling that positivity rather than maybe people being on their backs, and every misplaced pass, they feel that more pressure, and they hear the fans grumbling. When fans are still urging them on, I don't know if from a playing perspective, but I can only imagine when you're on there what a difference it makes when you want to keep getting the ball because fans are urging you to go and do it. And it's been great this season to see that positivity in the fan base and the numbers, like you say, travelling away from home. It's been great.
Commercially, let's go down that kind of route. We've obviously had quite a decent few months. Numerous deals struck for kind of kit sponsorship, 6-figure kind of naming rights for the stadium, obviously kind of home and set fair. How important are these partners?
I think for a club like us, I've said this a number of times, it's huge. We can't just rely on season ticket money or through the gate money. It's imperative to Livingston that we have those relationships within the community, but just on a commercial level with sponsors. We've been working really hard behind the scenes over the summer to renew deals, to bring new partners in, and I think as a club we've done terrifically well. That was well documented, the stadium naming rights deal with Home of the Set Fair, and they've been a brilliant asset to the club, not just from a financial perspective, but their support on match days. They're here, they're bringing guests, them as a business, they're complimentary about the club, they really enjoy it, and they're fully invested their time. They're here every Saturday. They support other teams, but they've almost now given up on that to be here. And
we saw them down at Ayr United on Saturday as well, didn't we?
At Ayr, they were at Partick Thistle before that. They were here in the Cup. They booked into hospitality to give that extra support, and they're buying into that as a business, and that can only help us. We strengthen those partnerships, and it makes other sponsors on the day take note of that as well. And we've had great numbers in hospitality, a combination of fans and sponsors booking in, but across the kit, and the new partners, and there's some renewals, some new partners on there as well. And right from that top end, the naming rights deal, right all the way to your player sponsorships, your match day hospitality, match ball sponsorship, it's been a great backing. And again, that probably coincides with a positive feeling about the club. We're winning games, it's exciting. You've got fans at companies. I'll take one for example, Alistair Stables at Pumfers and Auto Centre. I think he's sponsoring nearly every match, every ball, and so enthusiastic with it. And that didn't wane last season either. He was still here every week and still speaking to me about what he can do, how he can help. And this year he's been, I think, as I say, nearly every game he's been involved some way, whether it's sponsorship of the match, the ball, and hospitality. And as whilst that's not your top end kit sponsorship deals or stadium naming rights, that support is just as vital, because we need to sell those packages, and we rely on that money coming in, and it helps tick things over week to week, month to month at the club. We've not got an abundance of money. We've not got an owner that's coming in with millions of pounds that we can just not rely on somebody to write a cheque. It's all got to be done kind of organically and naturally within that sponsorship base that we have. So it's for great backing for the local community on a business level as well, and it's something that I hope that will go hand in hand with the positivity on the park, that people want to be involved with a winning club.
One of our kind of club main topics has been kind of engaging within the community and things like that. We've had numerous days of kind of community days and free tickets and everything else. Is that something that we're going to see more of this season? Funny
enough, it's something we were speaking about at the end of last week about when we'll look to run that again. it's a big operation for us to do that, logistically, from just the tickets themselves to opening the stands to increased. You need to have so many security here, so much medical here when the crowd goes over a certain level, and that all comes with cost as well. So it's trying to balance up that. You want to get as many bums on seats, and you want to get these people in and enjoying it, so they come back as paying customers, as paying fans. But I also got to balance that with not so much throwing money away, but spending money to try and get that in. And if it doesn't balance up, but it doesn't come back in, then particularly this season more than ever, when we are having to watch what we're doing and we're having to make sure that we're spending money wisely, it can't just be every second game throwing thousands and thousands of tickets away, not away, but giving them out and then just hoping they'll all come in. So we're trying to pick and choose how we do it, the way we do it, what's the best practice for getting the people in. Is there a different way we can do it to make sure that we're minimising the spend but maximising the bums on seats? So yeah, it's something we'll be doing again. Certainly plan to have one before the end of the year, where we'll tie that in towards Christmas time. But yeah, it's something we'll do, and we've seen the reward of that. We've seen season ticket numbers this year marginally up on last year, which I think is, we didn't know the lay of the land. No, you don't know what you don't know. So we got relegated, and you're thinking, will season ticket numbers plummet? Will they
I think it's probably natural to think the worst.
Of course it is. But then what we start to hear and see is that fans are kind of engaged and excited about the challenge, about the fact that we could win every game, we might win every game, we might score more goals. So you start to go, right, okay, it's not playing Celtic and Rangers home and away and kind of going into the games going, oh, this could be bad, or you concede an early goal and you already know it's slipping away. I think every single game this season people are turning up going, we could win this today, and we might not, but there's a real chance that we could. So yeah, I think trying to keep doing that and getting people along with the community tickets is something that we will do, and we will have one before the end of the year.
Obviously, it's been a really positive start to the year, and it's just a case of everybody clubbing together and continuing this positivity, isn't it?
Of course it is, and that's not within the building and outside the building. It's last year took its toll on the staff as well, not just the playing staff, the off-field staff. It's difficult when you're coming to work and that general mood is down, when the players are losing games and they're naturally struggling to kind of get that positivity back. Then when you're then liaising with the players and speaking to them and you feel that and you're trying your best to pick them up, but then it's also affecting you because you're going through the emotions of losing games. And so that was hard last season. This year it's been great to see that there's a real freshness about the squad this year, and I think, and that's not to put anything on players past or present, but it probably got to a stage last year or the end of last year where we probably needed that freshness about the building. One, with the relegation, probably had that lingering negativity with it, so to freshen things up, we had like you said earlier on, a big turnover of players, which I think we needed as well. And you feel that kind of freshness. It was new, and when we returned back for pre-season in the last few years, it's kind of just felt like everybody was on holiday for a few weeks and everybody came back, and that you need that continuity to an extent. But I think this year really was the first time where it felt like when you came back for pre-season, it was a new group, it was new people, there was changes within the coaching staff, there was big changes within the players, and I think that probably gave Davey, Neil and Brian and the rest of the coaching staff a real chance to then start to mould a new feel and a new way of doing things. And Davey's been quite open about it. Last year probably spent a lot of time focusing on opponents and stopping them doing their thing and how do they line up. This year the full focus has been on what we're doing, how are we going to win games, not stop the other team. There's a part of that, of course there is, and the defensive duty still need done, but this year it's certainly more a case of go and win the game, and how do we, where are the flaws in the other team to go and exploit and win, as opposed to how do we stop them beating us. And you're seeing that now. We're scoring goals, we're playing good football, you can see we're trying to build the game for the back. It's a totally new way of doing things, but that's been able to happen with that freshness and that new blood in the group, I feel like, which is still with Danny coming in, and Stevie May was quite near the end of the window. So that probably goes hand in hand with the mood and how things are about the building. Fans now getting more on side on a match day online, because that's a big thing at the minute across football, across the world, I feel like, but certainly the football environment can be such a real drain on people. The impact of social media, and it's easy to say just don't look at it and why the players going on there, but it's natural that you're going to go on there, not looking for it, but I know for on a personal level, I like using social media, I like going on Twitter, I like to see what's going on in the football world, I like seeing friends and family and what they're getting up to. So just to say, like, just don't go on it, well, why should I not just go on it? Like, there's more to it than just the Livingston stuff. But then you see it naturally, you don't need to go looking for it. And when kind of a lot of last season, it was negative, and it did take its toll on the players and on the staff, and you're reading that week on week. Whilst I can get the frustration at times, I think there's getting to a point in the game, not just Livingston, but in the game in general, where it's probably getting to a tipping point, I think, with social media, and it's bubbling, I think, just there, where it's not a great place, and it's people can maybe overstep in the mark at times, and people disagree with that, and that's fine. But for me, I think it's getting to the point where it's more and more difficult, and players particularly will go and look for it. That's their mindset, is they'll want to go and see it, and there'll be 99 positive comments and one negative, and the one negative is the one that will be in their mind for the rest of the week about that one person said they didn't do something well, or they played poorly, and I'm probably being polite with how that gets put across on social media. But so it has been nice this year to see that changing, and it being more positive, and people seeing what we're doing on and off the field, and seeing the change and results, and the number of goals scored, the number of goals conceded. It's been night and day. So we can only hope that the fans keep seeing what we're doing as a club, see the success that we're having so far this season, buy into that, back the team, back the players, and hopefully, we're sitting here, hopefully having a conversation in May. It will be after a really successful year, and we hopefully promotion back to the top flight.
No worries. Thanks for joining us, Dave, and thanks for your time. Appreciate it.